Good morning. I am Mike Cranmer, a new member of your Board of Trustees, and I am working closely with Stewardship Council this year, and a working group within Stewardship Council that we are called the Legacy Working Group. We are trying to gauge the interest of all of you. Some of you have already become legacy donors to First Unitarian. Some of you are thinking about it, and some of you are wondering, what the heck is he talking about? So if you're wondering, what am I talking about? If you have not received it this week, you should be receiving a letter that looks like this from Stewardship Council that is discussing the events that we're planning this year and the interest that you all may have in becoming legacy donors. So we will have some of us at the opportunities table after the service if you have questions. If you have not received a letter that looked like this in the last couple of days, you probably will in the next 2 days. So thank you for paying attention to this important project that we're taking on.
And on another note, I'm Colleen Bryan, and I was among 18 people from this congregation who took a civil rights tour of the South in the spring. And we're eager to bring back some of the ideas and insights that we got from that tour back to our congregation. So the first of an August movie series is coming up this Friday night, and I'll be hosting a film that's called Slavery by Another Name. And I'd love to have you join us. Issues like slavery seem kind of anachronistic, and yet these ideas have proven remarkably resilient and sticky, and they come up in our present day in ways we might not recognize. So what we want to do is have an opportunity to show the film as an excuse for having a discussion among ourselves about what we see and where in our current struggles for freedom, and where we might be able to learn from ideas from the past. You'll find flyers for the film series in the community room and on the back of your order of service today. So we hope you'll join us. 6 o'clock Friday night here. Be here. Thanks.
Good morning. I'm Ed Derringer. I'm the Vice President of our Board of Trustees. And let's see here. I have one quick announcement in addition to the others. Reverend Mike's Whole Soul Studios has been rescheduled till next Sunday. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whether you carry joy or sorrow in your heart, you are welcome here. All people of goodwill are warmly invited to join us on the great journey of the mind, the heart, and the spirit. If this is your first time with us today, please let the offering basket pass you by. Your presence is enough, is gift enough. We hope you'll join us for coffee and conversation in the community room after the service. We would love to get to know you and answer questions you might have. You can also visit the information table next to the exit from the community room. On the first and third Sundays of the month, the offering at the First Unitarian Church is donated to an organization from the Denver community, which has been chosen by the Giving in Action team. All cash and checks will be donated in full unless designated otherwise. We will learn about the organization chosen for this Sunday offering later in this service. If you're looking for other ways to engage with our community and support the work of our congregation, please visit the opportunities table at the back of the community room after the service. There are a variety of activities that we welcome more helping hands. We would love to match you with an opportunity that interests you. Please remember to silence your phones and other electronic devices. Welcome to worship. At this time, please take a moment to greet the people sitting around you.
Welcome, everyone. If you could be seated, please. Okay, before we sing our welcome song, I wanted to have you join me in a warm welcome to our guest speaker, Kristen Psaki, who we welcome back. Kristen is a UU minister and therapist and has been a guest speaker here before and a great friend of First Unitarian. Welcome, Kristen. Please join me in our welcome song.
We are many, we are one. The light of the world is within you. Sacred and worthy is your soul. A place has been made for you.
Good morning. Our call to worship today is The Longing for Something More from Reverend Gretchen Haley. Every little thing that breaks your heart is welcome here. We'll make space for it. Give it its due time and praise for the wanting that it represents. The longing for something more, some healing hope that remains. Not yet. We promise no magic, no making it all better, but offer only this circle of trust, this human community that remembers, though imperfectly, that sings and prays, though sometimes awkwardly, this gathering that loves, though not yet enough. We're still practicing, after all, still learning, still in need of help, in partners, still becoming able to receive all this beauty and all these gifts we each bring. Come, let us worship together.
pleased to have Adam here. Leah's taking a well-deserved time off. Please join me and stand if you're willing and able in hymn number 346.
Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and rose in the winter time. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Lynn Garman, a member of the Giving in Action team that has the pleasure of meeting with local organizations and vetting our Giving in Action recipients. This morning, it's my pleasure to welcome Grow Local Colorado, dedicated to promoting local food, local community, and local economy. This morning, please give a warm welcome to Barbara Masoner, who will tell you a little bit more about this organization, and then I hope you'll give generously.
Thank you, Lynn. Good morning, First Unitarians. Thank you for the warm welcome. And if you've looked at the back of your bulletin, no doubt you've read about what Grow Local is doing. We have 20 garden sites across the metro area. All of what we grow, which was between 8,000 and 10,000 pounds of food each year, goes to organizations that are addressing food equity. So we're trying to get as much healthy food, nutrient-dense food, to our neighbors that lack access to healthy food. But the reason I'm here today is I want to share with you a project that we have coming up this fall. 4 years ago, we started gleaning fruit trees, and if you're like me and you're walking around your neighborhoods and you see fruit that isn't being used on those beautiful trees, it's like that just can't be, because there's people who need that. So we started harvesting those, and we went from harvesting 250 pounds of that fruit 4 years ago to last year it was almost 9,000 pounds. And that's because of volunteers. And so this year we've got the great idea that we're going to have one citywide gleaning day, September 28th. We are encouraging as many teams as possible to come help us, and basically we will provide the tools, the pickers, the tarps, the crates, and each team will get 3 to 5 trees depending on how close they are and how big they are. And that team has a choice of taking the fruit to an organization or a school that they support, or they may know neighbors that need it. Or we'll have one of our partnering organizations, such as We Don't Waste, Fresh Food Connect, Denver Food Rescue, pick those up. So we've already partnered with about 10 other organizations that I know that you have supported many of them because your Action and Giving Committee has told me about who you supported. So you know who they are, you know what they do. And the reason I am here today is to ask, first of all, if you would consider putting together a volunteer team or 2. We will provide the tools and we will approve the fruit tree with the owner ahead of time. So all you have to do is go pick the fruit and then we'll take it from there. The other thing I'm asking for is funding, because by incorporating 20 to 30 new teams of people, we're going to need 20 to 30 more pickers. We're going to need more tarps. We're going to need more crates. So I ask that you give generously to help us reach this goal, and everything that we're purchasing is going to be used. This is just a first run at this. This will be something that we're going to be doing for years to come. So I welcome any discussion that you would like to have, any questions. I will stick around after the service, and I've got flyers. So thank you so much.
Sometimes your life feels like a broken roller coaster, 1,000 useless moving parts. Sometimes you spend your night too scared to getting closer, hiding out in the backseat of your car. You tell yourself it's raining, the clouds are in your head. You tell yourself it's better to jump before you fall again, before you lose it all again. Look up, do you see the sunlight? Look up, there's flowers in your hair. Hold on, 'cause somebody loves you. You know trouble's always gonna be there. Don't let it bring you to your knees. Look up. Mondays aren't always bright. Sometimes you lose a fight, but life can be beautiful if you let it be. Tomorrow keeps haunting you, all kinds of mysteries. It's a blank page for your poetry if you let it be. You tell yourself it's raining, the clouds are in your head. You tell yourself it's better to jump before you fall again, to lose it all again. Look up, do you see the sunlight? Look up, there's flowers in your hair. Hold on, 'cause somebody loves you. You know trouble's always gonna be there. Don't let it bring you to your knees. Look up. Ooh. Look up, do you see the sunlight? Look up, there's flowers in your hair. Hold on, 'cause somebody loves you. You know trouble's always gonna be there. Don't let it bring you to your knees. Look up.
You all this morning. Thank you for widening the circle and inviting me into this time of worship, sacred Sunday morning hour. Yes. Thank you for these gifts. Thank you for all the ways that you give, your time, your love, your kindness, your resources. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you. I want to invite us into a time of prayer or meditation. And I invite you to really listen to whichever way you want to land there. I invite you to close your eyes if that feels good for you. What if this just gets to be a few minutes out of your whole day or your whole week that's just for you? Just for you, just for us, just for you. Can we start by taking a really big, deep breath together? I'm going to invite Adam to come on up. So prayer can be so many things. For so many different people, it can be a time to sink into your truest self, into your spirit, into your heart. Prayer for others can be a time of saying whatever it is that you carry in here this week out loud. The difference of putting words and vibration out into the world. Prayer for others might be speaking to God, speaking to love, speaking to life, speaking to earth, speaking to the universe. And for you, this might just be a time of meditation, a time of breathing and slowing down. And we're going to sing too. And we're going to feel into that rhythm together. And if you can sing, I invite you to sing. And if you can't sing, I invite you to sing. Okay? Let's just take one more breath together. Yes, yes, yes. Helen and Adam are going to teach us this song, and then we'll sing it together.
What we need is here. What we need is here.
What we need is here.
What we need is here. What we need is here.
Spirit of life, Spirit of love, that which holds everything and all of us. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for our breath and our voices. Thank you so much for this time to be together, to remember that we're never alone in this life. Thank you. Thank you for the exact person on our left and the exact person on our right. Thank you for their whole story. All that we know and all that we don't yet know. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. May we remember that all we need is right here within each of us, and right here together as a gathered community in person and online. All we need is here. And let us sing.
What we need is here. What we need is here.
Ancestors, hold us. Ancestors of this faith, ancestors of our own lineages, ancestors of affinity, all those that have come before and surround us now, reminding us of this great, big, long story of which we are a part. Such a gift to be in this life. Hold us in all that we hold. I invite you now to, if there's any burden that you carry in this morning, any pain, any struggle, yours or someone you love, I invite you to just let yourself, if you can, just take a couple breaths with that. Maybe just leave a little bit more space. We want to send love to Greg's uncle Phil, who died on Friday. Sending care and love to all those who knew Phil in these early days after his passing. And I invite you now, it might feel a little risky or a little vulnerable, and just trust yourself, but into this space held by the music, I just invite you to just whisper or name whatever it is, whatever burden or sorrow you carry. I invite you to say that out loud for us all to hold and hear together. All those affected by the wildfires this week. Receiving it all, receiving whatever is held in your heart. May all those who experience conflict inside, and wherever there is conflict, may there be peace. May there be peace. And let us sing.
What we need is here. What we need is here.
I invite you now to bring in something that is maybe a joy or a gratitude. And nothing to force, you get to be right where you are. But if there's anything, maybe it's really small, maybe it's a peach or a cherry from the season or a cool Colorado morning or something else. I invite you now, if it is right there, to just take a breath now with that. Something maybe that amongst everything feels good, that you feel grateful for. Maybe take an extra breath with that for you to support the person next to you that maybe is having a harder time to find it. Can we share in that? And again, just opening up the space here, if there's anything you feel grateful for, to name it here out loud together. Grateful that Rundle Brown is doing well after heart surgery. And we celebrate with Carl Mount, who had a 70th birthday. Happy birthday, Carl. Thank you for the water and the mountains. May our hearts soften a little bit more. May our hearts open just a little bit more to what we are truly with today, to each other. With each breath, may we have a little bit more space for a little bit more love, a little bit more community and connection. And may we remember that what we need is actually all right here. And let us sing.
What we need is here. What we need is here.
And one last time together.
What we need is here. What we need is here.
Amen. Really beautiful. Thank you all for praying and singing together. When I was in middle school, we had these friendship notebooks. One of those black and white composition books. We collaged over them with magazine cutouts, our pictures, and often huge letters that said, "Best friends forever and ever and ever." Did anyone else have any of these? Maybe? Yes? Okay, hands. We'd write notes back and forth, sharing about our lives, our latest crushes and heartbreaks, embarrassing moments of just being alive and 12 and in a changing body with braces and one eyebrow. Looking back on these friendship notebooks, they were really full of love notes. So affirming and loving of each other, often ending with, "I love you so much. Best friends forever and ever and ever and ever and ever." Friendships are really important at that age, right? But maybe friendships are really important at every age. I've been wondering recently as I witnessed my 3-year-old navigate friendships, peer connection, and kinship for the first time. Why, for many of us, I've been wondering, why for many of us do friendships somehow fall out of fashion or something as we get older? And by that, I mean the main story of our larger dominant culture here in the US and beyond for sure is that you go to school and you have friends. Maybe you go to college and you maybe live with friends. But then you get married and maybe you have children, you share a home with that family, and that becomes your primary unit. This is very celebrated and very much the norm. Again, generally speaking, dominant culture. This narrative was troubled a little bit during the pandemic. So many families all of a sudden completely parenting alone as they tried to work themselves, all in the home on lockdown, no other support, teachers far away. Many of you may have lived through this experience. I watched the courage of parents with small children, my sisters included, during those more acute years of COVID, encounter the impossibility of it all and suffer the huge limits of structuring our society around the nuclear family, cordoned off by walls and yards and much more. On a podcast about her recent book, Everyday Utopia, by scholar and professor Kristen Godsey works to put this model of living in some historical context. As she says, quote, "Many people, but particularly in the US, have this idea that what is natural is the couple, the monogamous couple, living together in a single-family home surrounded by their own privately owned stuff and providing biparental care for their own biological children." Quote, end quote. Now, this is not to say that that particular life as described is somehow not to be respected and very worthy, because it is. And I imagine many folks in this room live a version of that story and live beautiful lives of purpose and meaning and service. More, Godsey's point is that it has its limitations. And it's unexamined. It's pretty unexamined. It has its limitations, certainly in a more unstable reality, right? Like a pandemic, or a climate crisis, or a political crisis. And that actually, she says, it's not actually how things have always been. And we also get to imagine futures full of community with rich layers of lateral connection and support, she reminds us. Which can include marriage. Yes, what a beautiful, sacred commitment. And also intimate friendship. And entangling our lives more. Community that includes having more of everyday life be shared, like laundry and meals, and maybe even caring for children and elders. At least that's some of my vision. It's easier for me to imagine growing my web of friendship if we're doing the things of life together, like laundry and dinner. But play is important, too. My own little family had an encounter with the limits of just being us, me, my partner Andy, and our child Kairos, and our dog, the four of us. Almost 2 years ago now, Andy had a major seizure. Our whole little family was together when it happened in Andy's white Toyota Tundra parked at the pump of a gas station. It was scary, but Andy recovered. No one was hurt exactly, except for Andy, of course. It turned out that Andy has epilepsy, a seizure disorder. Epilepsy is often full of misunderstandings and mythology, but also good research and science, but still a lot of mystery. Soon after the diagnosis, we were obviously at the beginning of the journey with this new reality and knew very little about when Andy might have a major seizure or the impact of smaller seizures. Andy was the primary parent at home with Kairos, who was then 1, while I worked. We needed more people quickly. My very supportive family would have showed up with meals and cousins for our child to play with and hot tea and listening ears, but they all live in Virginia. We didn't have a big network of friends locally, plus still being so in COVID. Andy and I really did feel like we were holding this alone. But we literally just got to edges where it was actually impossible without more people. I needed there to be a local emergency person to call if I was with a client, for example. And so I had to ask for help. It was very difficult and very vulnerable. I'm much more comfortable giving help. Can anyone here relate to that? This is a much longer story, of course, but it was the beginning of a forced shift for me and for my family of having to cultivate local community. It couldn't exist as an idea or something we just wanted. We had to. Friendships. That's what I really mean. Friendships, deep friendships. We always wanted to, but this lit a fire. It had to be. It was essential. It felt so risky to ask for intimate help from friends that were not really good friends yet, although they are now. And many people showed up for us in ways that made me weep, truly, in relief and in gratitude. What would it look like? What would it look like to love your friends even more, even harder? To lean into the intimacy and support of friendships. To loosen the box, the pressure of everything the nuclear family is supposed to carry, to entangle our lives even more, to let your friends in even more. We do have models for this. God's seed fleshes out this sense that the single family home, surrounded by their own privately owned stuff, by parental care for their own biological children. She says that it's so reified in the United States. It's lifted up as being sort of the ultimate image of success. She says, quote, that many people try to give it a prehistory of naturalness. But that's not it. It's actually an aberration. She points to examples across history and culture of leaning more into different models of living and being together as people, more entangled everyday lives. The ancient Greeks, the kibbutz, eco-villages, co-housing communities, of which I imagine they exist in Denver, with shared facilities but separate homes, monastic communities, monasteries, multi-generational homes, also retirement communities over a certain age with often shared recreation and facilities, overlapping lives specifically in the day-to-day living of it. I'm also remembering now the pods of community connection and support that formed during the peak of COVID. This too a testament to that human impulse to reach for connection. Now, as we know, all relationships, including friendships, are complicated. Some are messy, some are unfulfilling. You might be most drawn to friendships of play, shared interest and lightheartedness, whereas the person next to you might long for friendships that nestle in deep conversation and sharing. It's all valuable. It's all valuable. And it all requires tending, cultivating like a good garden. So who comes up? I ask you this question. Nothing to force, just notice. Who comes up when you open your heart and your mind to your friendships? Right now. Is it a face, faces, a single name, multiple names? Are they present, or is it the past? Somebody from the past shows up for you here? Maybe you're not sure if you have any real friendships right now. I see you too. If you're longing for friendships when there aren't any, you're not alone in that space, and your longing is sacred and worthy. I would invite you to imagine that future friends might be sitting somewhere in this room or online. Part of why I wanted to bring this very message of friendship to here today during this really sacred time to be together is because we're living in this age of loneliness, right? Even Surgeon General Vivek Murthy called loneliness a growing public health crisis in the United States. And because there are a lot of reasons why all of us will face increased instability over the next decade. Climate instability, political instability, literally lateral networks of mutual support and connection will become more and more essential. Which is also not to resign ourselves to a certain kind of future either. Quite the opposite. Godse's book, after all, is entitled Everyday Utopia. Strengthening our network of real deep friendship, one of the building blocks of community, of local networks of support and care and coordination, is not only smart but deeply nourishing and the generator of a meaningful life. Deep friendship. I have a couple images I want to show you. I'm going to invite the first one to come up on the screen. This is an image from an Atlantic article from a couple of years ago titled, "What if friendship, not marriage, was at the center of life?" Now, they're trying to be provocative, but also point to a historical reality of this and not just a future possibility. The article points to the 18th to 20th centuries, at least in Western culture, as the heyday of passionate, devoted, same-sex friendships, called romantic friendships. Women commonly addressed letters to friends using the words, "my love," and "my queen." Without any hesitation, intimate friendships were common and accepted. Referring to this time period, author of the article, Raina Cohen, writes, quote, "It's clear that this period's considerably different norms around intimacy in friendship allowed for possibilities in friendship that are unusual today." And then let's go to the next image to invite intimacy within male friendship in here, and so many limits of the gender binary here. Just work with me with this. This is older and from a different time and place, but noticing the friendship intimacy here too, right? And this is not to say that a certain kind of physical contact is necessary for a good friendship, but more to say that the boundaries around friendship and romantic partner have been historically different and can be different. Shifting these boundaries and widening the circle of support and connection beyond the nuclear family can also look like cultivating a friendship where you can share about something you're struggling with vulnerably, intimately, which can relieve pressure from a spouse or partner to always be available when it's needed. Or cultivating a friend who loves to play pickleball with you or watch the Great British Baking Show, knowing full well that your partner or your spouse does not enjoy these things. Or maybe it's Game of Thrones instead of the Great British Baking Show. And for many, friends are actually at the center. A partner has not been wanted or chosen or found. Historically, this too was very normal. For example, by the late 1800s, more women, white, well-resourced women, began attending colleges and then moving into what were termed Boston marriages. Committed, educated women deciding to build their lives together as adults, as friends. And queer people, of course, for a long time have been cultivating chosen family out of necessity and proving to create beautiful and rich and supportive community, often through deep friendship as well. So what does this mean practically? To love your friends even more. I don't think there's one size that fits all. For me, it's been a reckoning with literal time. If cultivating friendship is going to be a priority for me, I have to give it literal minutes, hours, time. Picking up the phone when someone calls, reaching out and calling someone, saying yes to invitations when it feels right, being the one to invite. We also now, our little family unit, we live with a beloved roommate. We live together as a family with others in the same home. There's space, it's more economical for all of us, lower carbon footprint, it's beautiful and very complicated and very nourishing and totally worth it. For you, it might mean doing more reaching out at first, before the reaching back towards you is where you want it. It might be leaning into connections here, outside of Sunday morning, the choir, or other groups. It might be calling a really old friend who always makes you laugh, again for the first time in years, or more often. And for all of us, part of this practice of loving your friends more is also the practice of receiving love, which can often be the hardest part. A teacher of mine talks about this as a nourishment barrier, almost like a ring around us, a barrier of protection built up over years and experiences, struggles and pain not being seen, where it can be hard, actually overwhelming for the nervous system to let the good in, to let the love in. I can relate to this. If I think about the people that showed up to support me and my family in our ongoing journey with a new diagnosis, I can feel the part of me that wants to turn away, just figure it out alone, hide our mess and uncertainty. It can be hard to be seen in love and care that is being offered, right? And so I try to take a breath, slow things down, and literally imagine myself receiving, allowing just like a drop of the love in somewhere where it can enter. Just a little bit, molecule, a grain of sand of that love in, as much as I can tolerate, titrating it. And so to close today, I want to teach you a song. It's short. You'll catch on. And it's about this practice of actually letting the love in. Because after all, communities and friends have been gathering around fires for centuries and singing songs together and deepening these friendships and connections with song. So this song comes from the Lions Community Song Circle, and sending love up to Lions for all those that have been in the wakes of the fires this week. It was shared by someone who described it as a song that moved through her. The words are, I'm gonna let this love in, I'm gonna let this love in. You got that? Yeah? Okay. Adam's gonna help me. Okay, so let's try a little call and response. Greg told me to come to this microphone. Can y'all hear me still? Okay? Okay. I'm gonna let this love in. I'm gonna let it in. I'm gonna let this love in. I'm gonna let it in. I'm gonna let this love in. I'm gonna let it in. I'm gonna let this love in. I'm gonna let it in. I'm gonna let this love in. I'm gonna let it in. I'm gonna let this love in. I'm gonna let it in. I'm gonna let this love in. I'm gonna let it in. I'm gonna let this love in. I'm gonna let it in. All right, let's do call and response one more time, and then we'll sing it all together, okay? And imagine, as you're working with these words, is there anywhere you can let a little bit of this love in? Maybe into your elbow or your finger, maybe your heart, somewhere else. I'm gonna let this love in. I'm gonna let it in. I'm gonna let this love in. I'm gonna let it in. I'm gonna let this love in. I'm gonna let it in. I'm gonna let this love in. I'm gonna let it in. I'm gonna let this love in. I'm gonna let it in. I'm gonna let this love in. I'm gonna let it in. I'm gonna let this love in. I'm gonna let it in. I'm gonna let this love in. I'm gonna let it in. All right, let's sing it together a few times, everybody. You ready? Let's take a breath. Here we go. I'm gonna let this love in. I'm gonna let it in. I'm gonna let this love in. I'm gonna let it in. I'm gonna let this love in. I'm gonna let it in. I'm gonna let Again, really take it in the words, take it in a little bit of love, a little bit more love into you if you can tolerate it, okay? You can let your eyes close, just sing. Just sing. Here we go. I'm gonna let this love in, I'm gonna let it in. I'm gonna let this love in, I'm gonna let it in. I'm gonna let this love in, I'm gonna let it in. I'm gonna let this love in, I'm gonna let it in. I'm gonna let this love in, I'm gonna let it in. I'm gonna let this love in, I'm gonna let it in. I'm gonna let this love in, I'm gonna let it in. I'm gonna let this love in, I'm gonna let it in. Amen, amen, amen.
Thank you, Kristen. Please arise if you're willing and able and join me in our closing hymn, We Would Be One, number 318. It'll be on the screen.
We would be one as now we join in singing our hymn of love to pledge ourselves anew to that high cause of greater understanding of who we are and what in us is true. We would be one in living for each other to show to all a new community. We would be one in building for tomorrow a nobler world than we have known today. We would be one in searching for that meaning which binds our hearts and points us on our way. As one we pledge ourselves to greater service, with love and justice strive to make us free.
Please join me in our closing affirmation.
Behind all our differences and beneath our diversity, there is a unity which makes us one and binds us forever together throughout all time, through life and death, and the space between the stars, throughout all time, through life and death, and the space between the stars.
Beloveds, may we all leave this place, may you leave this place, knowing that you are enough, that you are worthy of love, and may each of our hearts be a little bit more open to deepening into friendship and to receiving the love that comes forth. May it be so. Go in peace. Amen.